David and Goliath, and other Bible stories, read aloud for you by Little Angel Reader. Contents: Samson and Delilah, David and Goliath, King Solomon. Samson and Delilah, Judges 13:16. When Samson was born, Philistines ruled over the Israelites. To show that Samson belonged to God and not to the Philistines, his hair was never cut. Samson grew up to be very strong and once even killed a lion with his bare hands. He used that strength against the Philistines, killing 1,000 men with just a bone as a weapon. If captured, he always escaped. The 5 Philistine kings found out that Samson loved a girl named Delilah, another Philistine, and offered her money to find the secret of Samson's great strength. But every time Delilah asked Samson for the secret of his strength, he gave her a different answer. "Being tied with rope used for the first time would take my strength away." Or, "I'd be as weak as a newborn baby if I were bound with bowstrings." None of this was true. Delilah tried everything, but Samson remained strong. "You would tell me if you really loved me," cried Delilah. Thinking Delilah loved him, Samson told her that his hair was his strength. Without it, he would be weak. That same night, as Samson lay asleep, Delilah had a servant cut off all Samson's long hair. Then the Philistines overpowered him. Samson was blinded, imprisoned in heavy chains, and given the hardest work to do. But of course his hair began to grow long again. The Philistines threw a great feast for their own god, Dagon, and Samson was brought before them so that they could laugh and jeer at how weak the great man had become. Samson prayed to God for strength. Then, breaking his chains, he gathered his strength and pushed aside the 2 largest pillars holding up the building. The temple came tumbling down, and everyone inside was killed. It was the last thing Samson did against the enemies of Israel. He had been Israel's leader for 20 years. David and Goliath, 1 Samuel chapters 16-17. David was a young shepherd boy and a great favorite of King Saul. He would often play his harp to ease Saul's troubled mind. When David finished playing, he went back to his home and his sheep. One day, news came that the Philistine enemy had camped in the valley of Elah, on the opposite side to the Israelite army, with just a small stream keeping the 2 armies apart. Now the Philistines had a great champion in their army. His name was Goliath, a giant of a man, and as strong as a bull. He strutted up and down, taunting and jeering, trying to call out an Israelite to fight him. "Where is your champion?" he would cry. "Send him to me. If he kills me, we shall be your slaves. If I kill him, you shall be ours." But no one dared face Goliath. David had brothers who fought in Saul's army. He brought food for them every day. One day he heard Goliath's taunts. "Who is he to taunt God's own soldiers?" he asked. "Let me accept his challenge." The soldiers looked down at the lad and laughed. But when Saul heard about it, he sent for David. David told the king, "I fight many wild animals to keep them from my father's sheep. I am under God's protection always." And after some thought, Saul agreed. He gave David his own golden armor and his sword, but both were too heavy for a young boy. David left them behind so that he could move more freely, and took out his sling instead. Then he chose 5 smooth stones from the stream. When Goliath saw David crossing the stream towards him, he roared with laughter. "And is this your best?" he called to the Israelites. "You have strength on your side," said David, "but I have the strength of God on mine. God will put power in my arm." David took out one of the stones, put it in his sling, and hurled it at the giant. The force of the blow killed Goliath instantly, and he toppled to the ground like a felled oak tree. When the Philistines saw that David had beaten their hero, they fled to the hills. But now the Israelites had the courage to fight again, and the Philistines lost all their lands. King Solomon, 1 Kings, chapters 1 through 4 and 10. Solomon was one of Israel's most famous kings and a man of God. In a dream, God asked what Solomon wished of him. "Wisdom," said Solomon immediately. "I am young, yet I have to make important decisions. I want to rule honestly and wisely." And God was pleased at the answer, because Solomon had asked for nothing for himself. "You shall have more wisdom and understanding than anyone before you," said God. And Solomon did become the wisest of the wise, yet he never forgot that his greatness came from God. One day 2 women came to him with a baby, both claiming it as their own. Solomon thought hard and then suggested the only fair way was to cut the baby in half. One of the women agreed, but the other said, "No, let her have it." Then Solomon knew that the second woman was the baby's true mother. Such tales of his wisdom even reached the land of Sheba. When the Queen of Sheba heard about Solomon, she wanted to know if the tales were true. She made a list of all the most difficult problems she could think of. Then she set out for Jerusalem with gifts for the king. She caused quite a stir when she entered the city with her magnificent court and servants. Solomon listened carefully to the queen's questions and gave wise answers to all of them. And the queen said to the people, "God loves you very much to have given you such a wise king."